Hello, everyone. We've added this note to the beginning of all of our original episodes of the podcast to let you know of a few changes that have happened around here and hopefully avoid any confusion for you as listeners. When we began this podcast, it was called Starseed Survival Guide, and most people called me, your host, by my birth name, Erin. Throughout the first 22 episodes, you'll hear me introduce myself as Erin, hear others refer to me as Erin, and hear many references to the name of the show being Starseed Survival Guide. In 2018, more and more folks began calling us Yaya, and in March of 2020, we changed the name of this podcast to Earthside Survival Guide to more accurately reflect our intentions for the show. For a little more of the full story of what these changes mean to us, please check out episode 23, a temple talk where we reflect on where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. We thank you for your patience during this transition, for listening and sharing this journey with us, and most importantly, for allowing us to continue to grow and evolve. Blessings.
And as I call in the east, I walk into the stream. And as I call in the south, I bring water to my mouth. And as I call in the west, the creek swallows my chest. And as I call in the north, I am swallowed by her soul.
Greetings, Starseeds, and welcome to the Starseed Survival Guide podcast. I'll be your host, Erin Rivera Merriman, and I'm honored to facilitate a place for us to virtually gather to be seated, activated, and germinated by the infinite well of galactic and terrestrial wisdom that is available to all in every moment. Thank you for hearing the call, for remembering that there is so very much more to life, and showing up to explore the secret, esoteric, mystical, and unorthodox pathways to liberation that are and forever will be open to you and all who seek them with sincerity. We welcome and hail to the guardians and the gatekeepers who dwell eternally in the liminal realms. We humbly beseech your assistance today in opening these portals between the dimensions so that those who have tuned in with this transmission may find themselves able to listen from a deeper place and receive the hybrid medicine and restructuring that the helper spirits who called this broadcast into being so generously provide. May you as sacred listeners hear what you need to hear and discard anything that is not of value to your own stated intentions for your life and the fulfillment of your soul's purpose in the most enjoyable, most beautiful possible way. Starseed Survival Guide is a listener-supported program, and we hope that if you find value in the experience we share here today, that you might consider offering support by visiting us online at www.activeculturefamily.com and making a purchase or donation. Many blessings to you on your journey, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hi folks, it's me, Erin, and I'm here today with another of my favorite Big Sister mentors, Colombian-born medicine woman, Paola Garcia. Paola is the creatress of the Eterno Sol Yoga and Mindfulness program, where she shares the tools and practices of Yoga Asanas and Mindfulness Meditation that she has been practicing and teaching for the last 16 years. Since 2011, she has walked her path with her beloved, Gustavo Ik, and together they share Ceremonial Cacao with communities around the world. Welcome, Paola. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Hi, Erin. So good to see you and to be sharing here.
Thank you. So here on the West Coast, you're best known for your ability to hold these back-to-back cacao ceremonies for days on end, for up to 70 women at a time at the annual Spirit Weavers Gathering where we first met. I'd love to hear about how cacao came into your life and how you came to be such a devoted steward of this medicine.
It started, like everything for me has started from like the base of relationships. I believe that relationships are my biggest teachers, and I treasure my relationships, all of them, with the people I know and with the people I don't. So cacao came into our lives, and I mean our lives because it came to Gustavo and me. It was not only a thing that came from me. And I moved just like, it's a long story, but I'm trying to make it as short as I can. And long story short, it's like a love story. But I moved from my life in Colombia 6 years ago, and I came to this little city that I didn't know was Tepic, Nayarit in Mexico. And I came to live with this amazing man that I met through spirit in an ayahuasca ceremony. It was just like a spirit connection, and we knew we were soulmates. That it was just like we were just waiting for the right moment again to meet in this lifetime. So the ayahuasca got us together, and then Gustavo came to Colombia, went to Colombia, and I came back to Mexico for each one of us just to know our lives. And after the same year, that was 2011, and I just quit my job in a school, which I loved, and sell everything and pack a bag of toys. I pack a bag of, because I work with kids, so I use a lot of, like, not a lot, but some things. And I packed my bags, my cat and my dog, and I just started this journey to find love within. At the beginning, it was just a journey of finding love outside, just to share it with someone. But then I realized it was a journey within. And the first 8 months we were living together in Mexico were like hell. Like, you see Gustavo and I, like, so no, but it has taken a lot of work to get to this point. So at the beginning, it was just like hell. I mean, it was just this guy and this woman that didn't know each other, that just like spirit just put them together, and they have to deal with their egos, to love each other and honor and respect each other. So our egos were giving us a very hard time. Our egos want us just like separate and blaming the other and find the guilt in the other. You know how ego works. It's just so interesting. And this brother from Belgium, Kurt, which I just remember him always, and we're very, very grateful with Kurt. Kurt knew us from the time I was visiting Gustavo, the first time I was visiting Gustavo in Mexico. He knew us, and then he came to our home, the house where we were living, which was Gustavo's grandma's, who passed away a few years before I arrived. And he came to the house to visit us, and he saw the truth behind the veil of the ego. And he also saw the ego, the ego thing there. And he said to us, like, you guys deserve better. You have a lot of gifts to share with the world. So you just keep pulsing, keep meditating, don't fade. And 8 months occurred, which was just like the time for me to be in Mexico, like the visas thing. So I needed to get out of the country. And we thought, okay, let's go to the US. But no, it's expensive and it's just far. Let's go to Guatemala. And synchronically, the synchronicities work in an amazing way. Just like when we really surrender our heart to the Almighty God, Goddess, however you want to call it, just the things just start to be in order. And so we met this. There's a lot of stories in this story, but I bet you can understand all of it. And so we met in the gathering. We just met and hang out with this amazing couple of Mayan elders who later become our teachers in Tat Pedro and Fabiana. And we said, okay, let's go to Guatemala, because my visa thing is ready to expire, and we're not doing very good. So like in spiritual journey will help us. And I will just make a decision if I still in Mexico, if I just move away. I was not planning to get back to Colombia, but if we are not ready to get to the next level of commitment, which is just to let our egos stop driving the situation. We were just ready to to continue our paths, loving each other a lot, but just continue. So we decided, okay, he said to we had this conversation, this amazing conversation in the sofa on the couch one day, and I said to him, okay, I love you, and I know that you're my lifetime partner, and I feel it, and I heard Spirit telling that to me, and I bet you did too. That's why we're here. But I need like another level of commitment, and I invite you to see God within me. So it's not a romantic love. I am inviting you to. It's just like eternal love. It's about God. It's not about me and my personality and my ego and my stuff, because you will kick me out again, And he didn't kick me out. Like, he was just like, oh no, let's be roomies. Like this is about romantic love. It's too intense, and you women are too intense. So just like be roomies. And say, no, I don't want to be your roomie. I just want to follow the call of my spirit. So we had this deep conversation, and he said, okay, I want, but I don't know how. I want to love on that level, but I don't know how. And I said, I don't know how either. So let's do it together. So that's like the point in which our relationship changed. And that's the point where cacao came into.
La esencia en cada ser, lo divino en cada quien, sintoniza y fortalece, brilla desde el interior. La esencia en cada ser, lo divino en cada quien, sintoniza y fortalece, brilla desde el interior.
So this friend of our, Kurt, sent us an email, and he said, I'm in Guatemala, and I found the best medicine you've ever had in your life. And we had peyote, we had ayahuasca, we had different plant medicines, and walked with different tribes along our way as a couple and separate. And he said, this is just like the medicine. You have to come to Guatemala. And we were just thinking to go to Guatemala to visit our Mayan elders, that Pedro and Fabiana, to just get some advice from them. Because they're a couple, and they have kids and grandsons, so they know how to deal with this stuff. So we just start our journey to Guatemala without knowing like he said, cacao, chocolate, but we never knew, and we were just like so into just giving just like the last effort to get into that decision of walking as a couple, which is, like, as Yogi Bhajan said, the highest of all yogas. So we just decided to take that path, just not to quit, and just to go beyond our own limitations and our own personalities. So we went to Guatemala, and we did just like it requires time, energy, and money to get where our cacao shaman is. So we did that amazing journey, and we get to Lake Atitlan, and which is so magical, surrounded by volcanoes, and the water is so sacred, and you can feel the Mayan tradition and all their suffering as well, and all their glorious in their magic and their medicine. And so we got there, and the first time we get to Keith's porch, probably people have been there because it's everywhere, and people from all over the world gets to that porch. So we got to that porch, and it was a private session for a woman, and Keith and our friend Kurt, who was his apprentice at that time, were there, and we were allowed to get into the ceremony, to the private ceremony, and just witness. So we sat there for, I don't remember how many hours, but it was a lot. And we were just witnessing. And we didn't take cacao, not a nib, not a sip, anything. And we could feel like the power of the cacao spirit and the medicine that was being shared there. And after that, we drink cacao. So we were in cacao ceremonies with Keith and all tribe that gathered there for 5 days, like a week in a row, drinking cacao. And we went deep into ourselves, deep into our relationship. Just as Keith always says, and many traditions have shared that too, is that we need to be 100% responsible of our things, not 90, not 80, just 100%. So we went there to take responsibility on ourselves and to walk the path, just not like by ourselves, like being responsible by ourselves, but also knowing that we are walking together and that responsibility that takes. And Keith said, after those intense 5 days and then other 2 days in private session with him, he said, Gustavo, take some cacao. And Gustavo was like, no, it's enough. Like, we were just like, until like, no, too much. This is too much, because it goes beyond drinking cacao, which is very sweet, and it opens up. It took this cacao journey took us into a deeper state of our own inner process, and so it was deep, and we didn't want to have more cacao at that time. But Gustavo, that kid was just so he just was so take cacao. You will then find your cacao, but take cacao. And say, okay. So we bought some of the pounds and paste and nibs, and we took the cacao to Mexico. And it was just stored for months until I had to travel to Argentina to do a training there, to teach there. And Gustavo was waiting his visa for Australia to go to a Wizards of the Earth gathering he used to go, and his visa never arrived on time. So he was so sad, and I was in Argentina, and so he was very depressed. Like, he was like, I was with his teacher, so he was just very excited to go there, but the visa was not in time. So he said to me by the phone, I'm gonna start like a 7-day cacao process. Wow. Okay, to deal with my stuff, because I'm mad and sad, and I wanted to go to Australia, and I had everything, but the visa was not ready, like a lot of stuff. And I was in Argentina with like far on South America. And so he shared then that he was willing to do a 7-day like meditation process with cacao, but just was enough for 1 day. Like, he had the ceremonial dose for 1 day, and he's very sensitive, much more than me. And he just started like an inner process, beautiful, that just like clear everything. And he just cleared the house. And then when I got to the house, like, he was different, and the house was changed. And he said to me, okay, let's drink some cacao. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we started sitting together, both of us. And then after a while, after weeks of like doing this inner process and sharing together, we start calling one of our elders in Tepic. It's another wizard of the earth, amazing man. And we start like sitting with Luis. Luis, you want some cacao? So we sit and we just read something beautiful, and we sing and we meditate. And then we start calling other friends, like, hey, Alejandro, Marta, we are just a couple of friends. We're having this amazing cacao. You want to join us? And yes. So some of our closest friends start coming, and then a teacher of our elder in Tepic arrived visiting with his wife. He's Mexican, and she's from Barcelona. And we start sharing with elder people, and more people start talking about, like, locally, Tepic is a very small city, but people start talking about us sharing cacao. And so more people were asking. And then by 2012, the closing of the cycle, there was this big, amazing gathering in Palenque, Chiapas, which is very powerful for the Mayans. There are the pyramids and the legend, not the legend, but all the story about Pacal Botan was held in Palenque. It's a very, very powerful place. And we were there gathered with Stephanie South, the apprentice of Jose Arguelles from the Teachings of the Law of Time. There was a big gathering there. And also synchronically, there was a rainbow gathering in Palenque. So there was a lot of people there. And Stephanie asked us to do a cacao ceremony the night before, the afternoon, the day before the closing of the cycle, the 21st of December. So we did a cacao ceremony. And it was our first big ceremony. It was 96 people from all over the world. And we were just there. I got chills now. We were there sharing cacao ceremony without us just like planning or just let's do it. No, we don't do that. When we do that, it doesn't work. Nothing works out. But we were invited by her, and lots of people were sitting there and we're singing. Actually, in our blog, there's like a little piece of a video one of our sisters from Ecuador did for us, and the bigger one is in Vimeo. It was an amazing ceremony, like amazing. We co-created with a woman from California that used to have cacao and lead like movement meditation. It was a co-creation, a beautiful galactic tribe gathered to receive the new beam, the new light, and to the closing of the cycle of suffering, just like to be in power and love. And after that, like we have been called and invited to participate in gatherings and ceremonies. And we have opened our home since then. All the homes we have been in, we have opened our homes to share what has brought us more clarity, more understanding, more love and softness, because sometimes we love, but we don't know how to love in a soft and like tender way. But also in love, we have learned to say no and to put limits. So cacao has brought us that clarity, that pause, just to pause and to, with tenderness, to just look within and deal with our stuff if we have to, and be able to share ourselves as we are with others. So there's a lot of stories behind what we have received, but that is just like part of it, no?
Yes. There's so many parts of your story that resonate with me. Kind of brought that feeling of my eyes watering up a little bit just to hear you speak to, well, I call it truth tears when my body's responding strongly, because it feels like you're really telling the truth. So when you're like, oh, we met and spirit brought us together in this medicine ceremony and this was my soulmate and we came together, I can just feel that conditioned part of me so eager to project onto you that you're part of this couple who's sharing a path with heart medicine, so it must just be so blissful all the time. And feel this child in me who was sold that story kind of swell and reach for that fantasy. And I find that to be so destructive, that we do this to ourselves, because this programming causes us to reject the love that's right in front of us on an endless quest for peak experiences that happen as part of the ups and downs of relationship. So we get myopic about this quest for the high, the peak experiences of love. And I feel that little Erin just go, oh, I want that. So I love that you cut to the root of these projections right away and just tell the truth that it was hell. It was also inspiring and comforting to hear that that's not the end of the story, because I think for a lot of people it is, where there was a real spirit connection and there was an intuition to connect and there was something real possible. But the personality stuff or unhealed wounds or whatever is in the way is just gets to be too much, and we're not given the tools. Like you had medicine or elders or wise friends to come in and say, no, the two of you really have something beyond all of this, and to have the timing work out where you're both willing to be able to say, okay, we're going to do our own work. And that's what's going to enable the original impulse we felt to love each other actually be able to take root and mature into something sustainable that you can co-create from, and, you know, enable loving each other to feel better.
Yes, totally.
That's really beautiful. My kind of, I guess I would say hypothesis, because we have these ideas that we're always putting to the test in the laboratory of our lives. So I have this hypothesis that is basically that when we're struggling and we're like, how do people do this? Or like you said, Gustavo said, I want to love you in that way, but I don't know how. When we say we don't know what we're doing, I don't know what I'm doing, do you want to figure this out together? And you have the humility to say, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know the whole story, or I don't know how to do it. And that those are the times that the medicine shows up to say, you know, no one in the past ever figured this out on their own. There was always some other factor, community, there was always medicine.
And one thing that's important as you're mentioning it is that the medicine comes in different forms and shapes. I mean, like for me, it's just like spirit is everywhere, and the Holy Spirit will manifest to give us the clarity and to allow us to hear our inner voice and inner wisdom in different forms. Just for us was cacao. For me also was meditation and yoga. For Gustavo was the synchronic order of the 13th moon. And for you was kava, for example, or and any other, like a spirit can show us the path in so much different ways, because we're human. So we need like this experience through our senses to realize that love is true and that love is possible and that transformation, it's possible, and that ego is not real. So spirit tells us, okay, you actually are forgetting that you and Gustavo are one, and because you are being identified with your ego and you are just trying to, and you're judging his ways and you're not accepting him because you're not seeing his innocence. Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm going to send you this thing, this cacao thing, this cacao medicine that will just allow you to sit and see each other from your innocence, from your true self. And the rest, you have to do it by yourself because you have free will. Okay. So, no. And sometimes it goes beyond cacao, but because we now, for example, after Gustavo's health issue last year, he's not drinking that much cacao. And it goes beyond cacao, as I've shared in ceremonies. Like cacao is just a tool. Cacao is a tool from spirit for us to remember, but it's our willingness. Just like our willingness is deeper than cacao. It's deeper than any medicine that we can find on planet Earth, which are here to help. But actually, it's our willingness to remember who we really are, which is love. And I think that's for me, that's the key, because it's Like if I've stopped sharing cacao, or if I stop drinking cacao, or if we stop buying cacao, or whatever happens, we know that we have the willingness. So we can just sit together and not drink cacao. And we can sit together and we can share our heart. So that's one thing that has been shown to me through cacao. And that was exactly the first way we get to cacao without drinking cacao. So that's just, I always try to remember that, just like, it's not cacao. It's not. Cacao is just a partner. It's a facilitator, as many other plant medicines are. It's just not one way. And it's not the only way.
Thank you. I really appreciate when people take a moment to kind of elaborate on what we mean when we say medicine. Because when there's a specific medicine that people know that you work with, then it can tend to be that that's what they think you mean every time you use the word medicine. And I work with kava and various medicines of the fungi kingdom. But really, I view goddess worship as a medicine tradition and Shakti as the primary medicine that I'm carrying. So this was something I wanted to play with you a little bit around cacao. If there is a goddess that you feel is really aligned with cacao in vibration, or if you feel that cacao is herself a goddess or an aspect of goddess, and if you'd be willing to take a moment to introduce our listeners who may not have met her yet to this beloved spirit as she occurs to you.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for asking that. We were in Mazatlan in a wedding with our Mayan elders. We were invited, and they were guiding the ceremony, and we were helping them with the cacao. And Nan Fabiana said to me that I have the fearlessness of a how do you say that in English? Of a like a lion. It's not a lion, but it's just like a jaguar. It's just like this, that fearlessness that they will protect their little ones, and will protect their family without fear. And that I have also the energy of the hummingbird, which is so soft.
I knew you were gonna say hummingbird.
Because they have been following us during our whole process. And it's interesting because she said that if I approach my life with that only with that fearlessness energy, it could be too much, like too hard. That I needed to learn of that energy archetype that is with me, which is the hummingbird, which is very solitary, like I've seen just like a little bit, sometimes like the hummingbirds flying with other hummingbirds. I have seen them just by their own, doing their art and their music, and just having this strength, but also this softness. What I felt the first time that I drank cacao and I feel cacao in my body was this place where I can just be and embrace whatever I was feeling.
I like that I was asking you about the spirit of cacao and how she occurs to you, and you immediately started to talk about these different animals, the jaguar and the hummingbird, because that's really true for me, that we can speak about spirits as gods or goddesses or plants or animals, but there is another level where those levels of specificity and story kind of go out the window, and it's all just spirit taking different forms at different times for different reasons.
Yeah, I feel, and for some people, cacao can be like Durga or Kali in the same time. Like we have seen people that has been in cacao ceremonies and with us, and where we have been to, that cacao just just takes a lot of their density out, and it can be very intense.
So for myself, I did want to like tell a little story here, just because I like to make it as personal as possible. You know, when you're like, well, Gustavo's really good with the myths. I love the myths too, but when it really comes home for me is like in the personal stories. So I wanted to share my experience sitting with you this past year at Spirit Weavers, because I didn't think that I had expectations, but once it was done, it was clear that I had some kind of expectation. really, really surprised. Like that wasn't what I thought it was going to be in a good way. But basically, I'll probably misquote you, but like the main thing I remember at the beginning of this ceremony was you saying something like, the rule here is just don't try to fix anything. No fixing anything. So I don't know if you use the word rule, but that was how I remember. And, you know, you say a lot of beautiful things, and then we have the cacao. So it's interesting that was the one that really ended up being like a guide to what was happening for me. And so was having a really visual journey, which I didn't expect. And there was this energy of, you know, the children, and I didn't know that you worked with children so much. So now it all is coming together, making you know, just children and rainbows. And when I had opened my eyes, there was like a rainbow sticker in front of me. I don't know how it got there. So there's this whole thing with the rainbows and this just innocence that was very hummingbird-like, very much these like vibrations in like above my body and in the air surrounding my body, and just swimming in that, and that feeling really healing, and maybe more what I would picture when someone says like heart opening medicine, you know. Kind of out of the blue, it was like my heart was a flower, and the petals were kind of peeling back, and I was like, yay, peeling back, melting, opening. But then like there in the middle was what just felt like this like seed of hate. And this isn't a word that I use, and this isn't a word that I think about. I have a lot of understanding of different perspectives. So even if someone else's truth is making me uncomfortable, I don't really blame them for that discomfort, like most of the time, you know, of course, some of the time. But so it was this very strange feeling of like, no, like, I don't have hate in my heart. Like, that's not, but, you know, the Madison was just like, yes, like you do, there it is. And I was able to look, because it wasn't a person saying, you have a lot of hatred in your heart. It felt more neutral. Like I can hear things from the plants that I can't hear from a person, because I would say, no, that's your stuff. That's not me. And so I was able to hear it and just go, okay. And there was no judgment from myself or from the cacao in witnessing that being there. And so I could inquire without fear into the nature of hatred and see that in this case, it wasn't some like monster bad thing. And it didn't mean that I wished the other person ill. It just meant that that I was kind of not having a boundary with someone, and then feeling really bad when they were treating me a certain way, but I wasn't having any boundary. And the hatred was just kind of a neutral ally to say, there's a line that's supposed to be here. That there is a separation that has occurred that you need to acknowledge in order to stop behaving in a certain way, and which was basically stop waiting for like the love to return to that one spot in time exactly as it had been. It's just like, you know, there's a transition has occurred, and you just have to understand that and kind of move forward. And that was it. There was nothing more to it. And I feel like without the specific vibration of cacao, I just wouldn't have even known it was there, to be unconsciously leaking out, and people would have seen it, but I wouldn't have known it was there.
Yes.
And then, if I had admitted it was there, it would have been a lot of shame. I'm not dealing with this in a very spiritual way. I'm not being very loving here. And it was like, there's no need for that. There's no, like, things aren't what you think they are. Like, anger isn't what you think it is. Hate isn't what you think it is. That, like, so that all of this is like to sort of share something of the like unconventional wisdom that the plants have, where they're not necessarily indoctrinated into a cultural understanding of what certain things mean. And like, that's where I get myself into the most trouble in life, is someone does something or says something, or I see something or observe something, but then I attach a whole story of meaning to what I'm observing that isn't actually true, So there's something in the cacao, and I see how it would go really well with mindfulness practices, because mindfulness does the same thing, is like gives me that little bit of space between what I'm observing and the story that I'm making out of it, to actually be innocently learning from reality, versus just like storming forward, assuming that I know what's going on. Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah, cacao goes very well. I believe that cacao is a mindfulness practice, and mindfulness is our humanity. Is that ability to witness from the innocence within, and in that we enjoy it. It's like, okay, this is cool. This is another opportunity to self-actualizations. Let's do it. Another opportunity to see God. Let's do it. Okay. Time to say goodbye. Time to go out of the room. Okay, bye.
I feel that from your energy, that kind of, I can tell that you would be able to be fierce when that was what was necessary. I have observed it more as just a sense of like firmness or steadfastness in what aligning with your higher values, but also like, you're a very cute person. And so you have that joy, which just speaks highly of your path and your practices, because there are a lot of really wonderful educational paths to choose, but that, it's more rare to really feel the joy, you're enjoying your journey, and I think that's the thing where like, ooh, I want some of that. Can I have some?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, self-actualization. I like self-actualization. It keeps me fresh,
Yeah. So yeah, just speaking of like how much I enjoy the spectrum of your wisdom and how it shows up in our interactions. I have been so honored and so happy that you decided to join us as a guest facilitator for our upcoming Medicine Mandala apprenticeship. So this is something we're going to be holding here in San Diego starting in August. And it really does feel like a dream to share the medicine of this land with you, and then be able to have cacao and mindfulness practices as you're holding them with my home community and with my sisters here.
Yes, we dreamed that a lot, no, in the past. So yeah, it's beautiful that actually Spirit is aligning everything for us to co-create and to serve others, no? And yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I'm very honored to be part of this.
Yeah, there's a feeling of just that sweet spot where I do take my work really seriously, and I can get like really passionate about like the alleviation of suffering aspect of work. And then there's this other whole part that, you know, that's like, Paola's gonna be there. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have so much fun.
Yes.
Work and play at the same time. That's really such a sweet spot for me. So thank you.
Thank you too.
So
And that happened, sorry to interrupt you, but that happened that joyous way of living my life has been a gift that I've just received, and I nurtured with being surrounded by kids.
That's an interesting connection too. I worked with teenagers for many years when I lived in Brooklyn when I first got out of college, and I used to find it really awkward to be around kids and teenagers before, but then, you know, working with these kids where there was like, I had to, you know, contract that I had to show up every day for 8 hours a day, and there was really no escape. You're just in this room with them. And I think that that's what I get from children, and really from anything that does end up touching me and being meaningful, is like, I think Pema Chodron was the one who wrote that book, The Wisdom of No Escape. But it's like, when you think that you can get away, you part of you does, you know, part of you is like kind of crawling off into some corner of fantasy or whatever. And it's these situations, and kids just are so much more present. And so you can't fake presence with them.
You can't fake anything, you know, like you have to be true and authentic.
Yeah. And so it's like,
So
now I get why it was so uncomfortable looking back, because it was like hard for me to face myself and be with myself. And so now, you know, my son is 6, and definitely I feel like he is the mindfulness bell. It's like every 5 seconds I realize, oh, there I went again. Where did I go? What was more interesting than this? Nothing. You know, we think there's something better in the past or in the future, but like there never is.
Yes, and to make the connection there with cacao is just like, for me, that's why we always invite kids to the ceremonies. They are like part of the ceremony. Like the ones that don't bring the kids are their parents, because they're scared they can't be settled or in peace. But that's not true. We have experienced very, very deep ceremonies with children, and at the end, some of the teenagers or the little ones have approached us and have shared what they have experienced and what they have felt, and we're like, just like, wow, what's that? Like, so much wisdom, and the way they just sit down and meditate without us like telling them what to do. Is this just, we are holding space for everyone to be present, and cacao is a very good facilitator for that, to develop presence. And just like a scientific information, bitter food in the body does this kind of alchemy in which helps the mind to get focus. So cacao, if we drink cacao bitter, no sugar, no anything, pure 100% cacao, native cacao, which is much better, and it will help us to develop our concentration and our ability to focus, you know. So it's just like it's interesting.
It's really interesting, because something that I do in my work, I call it lens keeping, and it's basically this constant process of overlaying different concepts. This is a crystal, this is a plant, this is a goddess, and saying like, this crystal and this plant and this goddess all have that same vibration or that same thing to teach. So finding those, what I call them compound lenses, and that's where I feel the most like excited, is when there's like more than 2 things that I'm like, there's some reality that I'm able to see the essence of through like these lenses. So when you're talking about cacao and this bitter foods and this ability to focus, I immediately went to, oh, this is interesting, because I work with mugwort a lot. And, you know, traditionally you would smoke it or have it in a dream pillow, or there's like different things that people typically do with mugwort. But I'm always guided just to eat it, just to eat the leaves the way they are, fresh leaves. And I eat so much of it that I think it tastes great. But I'm always surprised when, you know, maybe I have a lover and I'm like, like, let's have some mugwort. And they're like, I'm like, oh, I thought it tasted amazing. But it is rather bitter. And what I share about mugwort is this sense of like, did you ever read that book, The Mist of Avalon?
Not totally, but yes, I'm familiar with that. Yes.
In the book, they're kind of talking about this idea that Avalon is right there.
Yes, but you cannot see it.
Our ability to see it. And so it takes training and practice to keep your ability to find it and enter into that mystery school fresh. That the more time you spend out in the world, sometimes, you know, called the square world in certain traditions, then the harder it is to find your way back into that mystery school. And that the priestess's job is to remember how to part the mists, that you just get lost in the mists when you're trying to get there. And that there's not a specific way to do it. There's not something you can learn once and always do that will always part the mists. It's different every time. And so in that, I hear the whole tradition of, say, Tantra, where there's whole books on these practices and things to do. But the reality is, if you're really wanting to, you know, get there being that like state of pure being and remembrance and presence, it requires presence. And it requires you to acknowledge that it's going to be different each time. And so when you're saying that the bitter flavor makes it so you can focus, what's focus? It's being fully present, and focus on what? On the present moment. And so I'm like, oh, that bitter flavor in the cacao, that's the same ability to part the mists. That bitter flavor in the mugwort, that's where they share that piece about, and that flavor and that experience of bitterness like points to like a cutting through of the fog and to the essence. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, that's it.
I wanted to speak a little bit about, you know, the emerging theme of this second module of our training that you'll be joining us for, because, you know, speaking of similarities, there are these similarities between kava and cacao, and then there are these differences. And those are, you know, we have been sharing kava and cacao as, I think, the only plant medicines that have been part of the Spirit Weavers container. So I've always felt there to be a dance happening there within that container, with women experiencing one day and then another day at a different point in their process, and kind of just massaging the whole process along together. And so what's emerging is really this theme that I see when people are doing work around, you know, the chakras, like looking at the body through the chakras, thinking about the heart as the like main one when you think of cacao. And kava traditionally is thought of as a heart medicine also, but my path, my experience with it is that she also knows a great deal about the yoni space, which is, you know, the word yoni is often thought of as meaning vagina, but it's really the whole vagina and womb, the whole kind of inner temple and entrance into the inner space. And so I've just been playing with that. Is it heart medicine or is it womb medicine? Is it heart medicine or womb medicine? And I feel like I just kind of got it, like, oh, you know, for me, there really is no distinction between those spaces. So if somebody, or if I'm having like experience in my womb space, it's fully a heart experience too. And if someone's touching my heart, I feel that, you know, in my belly and in my arousal, and a sort of spiritual arousal of having like my heart touched. And so I've started to call the intention maybe of the journey for that weekend as awakening heart womb consciousness. So understanding the relationship between these spaces and what's in the way of them operating as a coordinated team.
Mm-hmm.
So a healing journey, but with the intention of really like feeling the wisdom that comes from having the heart and the womb in alignment. And I was curious to hear if, you know, hearing that, if the traditions you're working with or just your own direct experience of cacao, how you see what you see the relationship between the heart and the womb spaces, and how you might see cacao like might maybe be interested in weaving into that exploration.
I believe that there's no separation. Like, we are all connected within ourselves and everything is related. It's just like a whole universe ourselves. So we might have like our heart willing and open, but we haven't dealt with some traumas or dramas from our past relationships that are stored in our womb or in our sexual energy, or we have misused our sexual energy, but our heart is willing, you know? So I believe that as we have the willingness to transform, as we have the willingness to go beyond the veil, to know that on the other side of the foam there's the avalon, and that the light is there and that the love is there, and we have the willingness just to clear our past relationships, to clear our energy, to know the sacredness of our energy, our sexual energy, and to know that sorry, and to just to know, but know it's like from understanding, like understanding that everything is sacred, and that we're not separate, and that we have, as women, for example, we have this power of creating life, and the intention, the willingness to give life, it's like a heart thing, like a seed in the heart. But if the heart and the body is not pure enough, the trouble comes, you know, like we will just give the kids, the babies, just all our density and all dramas. So it's not kind of separate. Separation is what has driven the world nuts. So it's time to unite from within, to unite the heart and the womb, to unite the mind, which is not only the brain, of course, but to unite everything, to do yoga within ourselves rather than only asanas. It's just to do our yoga, to have unite. And it's interesting because we have heard, and also I have experienced in my personal journey with cacao, that a lot of healing comes on the womb and sexual organs, and like all the energy on the lower chakras gets moved when we drink cacao. Actually, cacao is an aphrodisiac, you know? So when we drink a ceremonial dose, which is a big dose, we do not encourage people to have intercourse with their partners because it's too much on the heartbeat, and the breath increases in 30%, so it's too much. But the sensuality, it's different. Something happens in the body, you know, something happens with that energy, that creative energy, that kundalini energy. Something happens. We get more like, you know, like, I don't know how to say that in English, but we get just like, it's not sensual or sexual, but it's just that we lose ourselves. We get like, we get soft. So our energies can flow easily. And yes, totally cacao moves the energy of the body. And also talking about the energy of the womb, which is not only for intercourse or to make babies, because some of us have been called not to do that in this lifetime, but it's also creative energy. So cacao induces creativity. So creativity is this energy that is stored in the base of our spine. So cacao invites that energy to go to, to ascend and to manifest. It can be manifest through music, through dance, through writing, through whatever. So it's interesting that it's totally connected. Definitely. And we can make it holy or unholy. It depends on where we are in ourselves. Definitely.
When you were speaking, I really was feeling that sense of like the blood and the lymph and the juiciness. And I've started to work with wands as a ritual tool. So like sticks and crystal wands, and why that happened, because it was always a little abstract for me, and I like the more feminine symbols. But I was in a ceremony and someone just put a wand in my hand. So I had no thought of like, I want to hold that wand. And what I ended up doing with it was it just like went straight to my heart, and I just started weeping and feeling this like gushing of flow return to my whole system. So it was like this waterfall coming out of my heart that was just watering my whole body and all my chakras. And and you started to mention like it is the Kundalini, it is related to the creativity, and that I think is one of the things that I'm most interested in sharing and share through Kava, is that return of your own flow and remembrance of like what it feels like to really be flowing and have everything be lubricated and juicy, and that it's not like we're trying to achieve that state for a particular reason, like in a Western way where women might take hormone replacement to like, stay feeling juicy, that it's for ourselves. It's just for the lubrication of our lives and all of those emotions and all of the stuff we're dealing with, just having a sense of like, there's space in here for all of that, and it's moving. And so it is something I share with women as to like why Kava and Shakti, because I'm doing a lot of like chanting with Kava. And it is like that for me, some of those ideas of like this goddess or this mantra for this goddess were a little bit like inaccessible when I was younger. I wanted to feel the goddess, but I didn't really get how like doing that chant was gonna do that. And that my experience was that like Kava really brought it all to life in this way where it's like, do you feel that? Do you feel that the Kundalini moving in your body? And it's doing something different for each of you, but each of you knows what I'm talking about right now. Then we all have a starting, we're all going to have a starting place together to have an experience, because everybody knows what we're talking about, and everybody's having a direct personal experience that this is a real thing. And that, for me, that thing, that flow, that Kundalini, that is the goddess, that is the divinity, and that we can make that a life intention to be in that flow state more often. And, that's like what my practice is my daily practice is to bring that in before going out and doing my day. So, and trust that it's going to be a better day. It's going to be a better experience for everyone.
Yes, totally.
Well, I have just so loved where this conversation went. I think again, it's always like, I didn't think I had an expectation, but now I realize that I kind of had a hope that we would arrive at a new understanding of oneness and continuity in, what we're doing in life. And I feel that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's very beautiful what you're doing at making making, yes, spaces for people to get together, to get together, to remember. Because we need to remember, we forget. There's everything out there is inviting us to forget love. And so I'm very honored to be able to be part of a place of remembrance of the divine, remembrance of love, remembrance of unity, remembrance of the sacred. Because we need that. We need to get together and sit down and meditate. We need to get together to sit down and pray. We need to get together, stand up and speak from love. We need to do that as humans, everywhere, and to transform our little seeds of anger hidden inside of us, because we all have them. We're humans. That's part of being a human. So it's beautiful that you and your team is opening a place for all of us to do that. So I really appreciate that.
I'm just really excited to be with everybody in a longer journey, to really journey together. So we're going to have to start wrapping up here, and I wanted to close by talking a little bit more about where people can find you. So if you're listening and you're seeking deeper understanding of cacao or mindfulness or any of the things Paola has spoken about, or just feeling a connection with her spirit, you can visit her website, that is www.cacaosana.com, and that is Cacaosana with a K, and you can find that link in the show notes. And Paola and her partner Gustavo also offer 7-day cacao trainings that include mindfulness and law of time teachings in their own sacred space in Loremarcos, Mexico. And if you're interested in learning more about the Medicine Mandala Apprenticeship, that's the year-long plant medicine apprenticeship we have been speaking about on the show today. You can visit my website, www.activeculturefamily.com, under the apprenticeship tab. And just a formal thank you to you, Paola, and to all the benevolent beings in all the realms who've gathered here today to inspire and direct the flow of this ritual conversation. We dedicate any merits accumulated through this work to the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be well. May all beings know joy and not suffer. Jai Ma, Amen, Namaste, blessed be, Aho. May it be finished in beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back and not forgetting about taking time to make space, walking passage through all of your initiation, all your celebrations, showing up with our vibration, showing up with one of us. Beloved, it's been 1,000 years. Love drying tears. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here.